Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Melissa and today we are going to be making a thick jacket. Now you can use any yarn you like for this jacket, but do make sure the yarn you use is requiring a 9mm hook. As I go through this project, I will be putting sizes, stitches and everything in either corner, so keep your eye out for that if you are doing a different size to what I will be doing today. Today I will be making a medium. I am using this yarn, which is Monda Vera or Vera Monkey. It comes in many different colors as well as a multicolour variety. And as I said, it is needing a 9mm hook. It is 100% acrylic. And these balls are only 90 meters long. And for the medium, I will need 10. What else I will need besides my 9mm hook, I always start my chain, my base chain, in a hook size bigger. So I've got my 10mm hook. These hooks come from Furls. And I always do a bigger size. I find it makes a more even bottom or start of your project. You also need your scissors, a measuring tape, your yarn needle, and because it is a jacket or a very thick cardigan, you will also need buttons. So my husband makes these. We do sell them, so if you are interested, do inquire. And these are a B button. Alright, well, let's get this project started. Once you have found the end of your yarn, make a super long tail. Now what I normally do is stretch out my arm. Where it lands in the other hand, that's where I start. I'm going to be sewing up the side with this very long tail. Alright, grab your larger hook, which should be your 10mm hook, and do a slip knot. Because I am doing a size medium, I will be chaining 41. Once you have your 41 stitches, you need to change your hook over to the size down, the 9mm hook. Chain another one, and then what we're going to be doing is not working in the V at the front here. We will be working on the back into this loop. Okay, so you can see that the chain front are V's and the chain back are loops, and we're working in the loop. And the reason why is because then it allows this beautiful edging to be either, depending on what you're doing, be the nice bottom of your jumper or an easy place to start a decorative border, which is what we're going to be doing. Okay, so missing that extra chain one you just did, going into the next chain, turn it over, and there's your lump. We are doing half double crochets, so we are going yarn over straight into that lump, grab your yarn, pull it through, then grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So yarn over, going into that loop there, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And keep doing that in each one of your chains, and when you've finished you should have 41 stitches, and I will meet you at the end when you have finished this first row. I am on the last stitch, so you can see right there at the end. And then when you finish the last stitch, chain 1, turn your work, and then you are repeating half double crochets all the way up. So the first and next stitch is going to be in that first stitch of the row. So same thing, yarn over, straight into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So yarn over into that next stitch, and so on and so forth all the way to the end. So with this thick yarn, your work will progress very quickly. And the last couple of stitches, one and last one, it might not look like a stitch to you, but you can see there's a hole just there. Okay, so chain 1, turn your work, and repeat. So you'll always be starting in the first stitch, ending in the last stitch, and you will be doing 41 stitches for 35 rows. So just make sure you periodically count that you have your 41 stitches still and 35 rows. When you have done your 35 rows, I will meet you back here and show you what you need to do next. So I finished the this section of the back panel, and now what we're going to do is the front panels. So at the end of the row, chain 1, turn your work, and now we're only going to be working 14 stitches in. So do your normal half double crochet and count 14 stitches in. Once you have got your 14 stitches, then chain 1 and turn your work. And continue with your half double crochets on those 14 stitches. When you come to the end of that row, chain 1, turn your work, and you know it, you are going to be doing those 14 stitches. So this is starting our front panel on one side, and you will be doing 37 rows for this 14 stitches front panel. Alright, so keep doing that, going backwards and forwards. I'm on row number 3 now. Need to do 37 rows, and when you have done that, I will meet you back here and show you what to do next. Alright, so I've finished one of the front panels and we need to start on the second panel, but before you do that, don't end off here. We will need to use this later on. Saves reattaching. So what we just want to do is just grab a stitch marker and put it in there and just leave it like that. Then go back to the top of your back panel where you started your first front panel. Now we're going to do the second front panel. So get a second ball. When you have found the end of your yarn, you don't need to leave a long tail or anything. Count 14 stitches in. And then on your 14th stitch, put in your hook. Just double check that you have 13 stitches left in the middle. So at your hook, get your yarn onto your hook like so, and then just bring that through. Then yarn over and bring that through that loop there, tighten off, and then you're going to be doing your half double crochets. So yarn over and straight back into that same stitch. So you can see where it's coming out there, go straight back into there, and then keep doing your half double crochets in all your stitches as you go along. And when you get to the edge, you should have your 14 stitches. And then what you now need to do, chain 1, turn your work, and continue going backwards and forwards for your 37 rows. So that was row number 1, and then row number 2, and continue to have 37 rows like your other panel. When you have got to the end of your 37 rows, come back here and I will show you what to do next. When you have finished your second panel, so there's panel 1, there's panel 2, this time we are going to end off, because this should have ended off on the outside, whereas your first panel will have ended off in the inside of the cardigan jacket. But you want to leave a large tail for this end off, because that's what we're going to sew up this side with. So just do a very long tail, and then just snip it off and pull it through. All right. Okay, now go back to your first panel where you put the stitch marker in. Now you need to make sure that that row that you ended off on the inside of your cardigan, because now what we're going to do is do the edging around the inside of your cardigan. And this edging, and we're going to be doing this edging around the inside of the jacket, along the bottom of the jacket, and on the sleeves of the jacket. And we're going to be doing griddle stitch. So what you need to do when you've got your hook back on is chain 1, and then we are going to be putting a stitch at the top of every second hole. So can you see there's one hole there, you have your next hole there, your next hole there, your next hole there, but we're putting a stitch here, and then we miss this one, we go here, and we miss this one, we go here, and so on and so forth as we go around. So to do a griddle stitch, it's just 2 stitches alternating. Your first stitch is going to be a single crochet, and your second stitch is going to be a double crochet, followed by a single, followed by a double, followed by a single, followed by a double, so on and so forth. Okay, so for this first row, we are going to put our hook straight in, grab the yarn and pull it through. Then we grab the yarn and we pull through the 2 loops on the hook. For the next stitch, so we're going to miss that row there and go into this row here. So where that hole is, so miss that hole and go into the second hole, and we're going to be doing a double crochet. So yarn over, go into that stitch there, or the row there, grab the yarn and pull it through. Then grab the yarn and go through the first 2 loops on the hook, and then grab the yarn and go through the next 2 loops on the hook. Now we're missing this one here, and we're going into this one here. So we are doing a single crochet. So yarn in, grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn and pull through the 2 loops on the hook. Then we're missing this one here, going into here, and then double crochet, yarn over, going into there, grab the yarn, pull it through, then grab the yarn and pull through the first 2 loops, then grab the yarn and pull through the next 2 loops. So we're going to miss that one there and going into this one here. So we're on to single crochet. So hook in. If you can't get right up the tippy top, don't worry about the fact that you might have to go down a bit. Grab your yarn, pull it through. Then grab your yarn and pull through the loops on the hook. Missing that one there, going into this one here, yarn over, hook in, grab your yarn, pull it through, then grab your yarn and pull through the first 2 loops on the hook, and then grab your yarn and pull through the last 2 loops on the hook. And you're going to repeat this all the way around your front. So this is the inside, so you're going all the way down the front panel, you're going around the neck, So around the neck there and back down the other side. Now, when you have done that, I will meet you back here and show you what we do next. Okay, I'm coming to the end of the row and I'm ending off on a single crochet. So that is great if you end off on a single crochet. That is ideal, but if you've ended off with a double crochet, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. You just always need to start the next row with a chain 1. So chain 1, turn your work. Now whatever you have left your last stitch as is how you start the next row. So because I have a single crochet here, I'm starting with a single. If I ended off with a double crochet, then I start with a double. And what you're doing is putting the same stitch on top of the previous row stitch. So single crochet, so therefore I'm doing a single crochet. Next stitch is a double, so I'll be doing a double crochet. Next stitch is my single, and next stitch is my double. And keep doing the same. Now if you put this down, walk away and you go, oh, what am I up to? It's quite easy to see. So your single crochet just looks like a giant hole, like a V. But your double has more to it. So it looks like a little cap or 3 holes, or it's got a line in the middle of it. So you can see the double clearly to the single. The single looks like a big hole and the double's got like a line in the middle of it. Alright, so continue going around your single crochet and your double and so on and so forth. Now you need to do 8 rows. Okay, so that's row number 2 that we're on now. And after you've done that row, you've got another 6 to go. So I will meet you back here after you have done your 6 rows of your inside decorative edge. Okay, so now we have finished our edging around the neck area and the front panel. Okay, and don't end off. We're going to do the same as what we did before, and we are going to put a stitch marker in there and come back to that at the end of the project. The reason why is because I noticed as I've been making many of these that not every single ball is exactly the same. And on the bottom we want about 10 rows, and sometimes the balls have less or more. So I use all the bits of yarn that I have left over from everywhere, and I use them all at the bottom. So after we do the sleeves, and whatever yarn I've got left, I put on the bottom. So hopefully it'll make 10 rows. Sometimes it makes more, and occasionally it might make less, but it is actually easier to do this last so that you don't run out of yarn when you come to doing the arms. All right, so let's get the arms done. Okay, so we have finished doing the hem here around the, not the hem, but the edging around where your neck will go up here. We've got the front panels and the back panel obviously done. And then the hem is going to go down here. So we'll be working on that at the end of the project, and I'll tell you why when we get there. And the next thing we need to do is put in the arms. So I will show you one and then I'll leave you to do the second one. Okay, so it's time to do the arms, and the first thing we need to do is sew up the edge. So get your back panel lined up with your front panel along that edge. So here is the shoulder and here is the bottom. All right, and what we need to do is to get your tape measure and grab a stitch marker and measure 22 centimeters from your shoulder all the way down 22 centimeters and put in your stitch marker. I double check that I've got my 22 centimeters. Yep, we're good to go. And then get your yarn needle and your yarn. And all you're doing is sewing up the side to your stitch marker. How you sew up your side. I hate sewing. I'm not very good at it. So just do it however you feel it works for you. I just basically lie it flat and sew up the side. Just getting a bit from each side and just sewing up. I'm coming up to the stitch marker. Now I go just to the stitch marker and then I leave the tail because you will be wanting to create 28 stitches for the arm, and sometimes you might have sewn up too far and you can't create your 28 stitches, or too much and you want to sew up more. So I always leave the tail there so you can adjust, either release it or sew it up more. Time to do the sleeve. So get either armhole, doesn't matter which one you start off with because it'll be exactly the same. This is the shoulder up here, so this is the armpit here where the seam is. Going to the very tip of the seam, stick your hook in wherever is the closest to that seam. Okay, get the end of your yarn and then put that around the hook and slip that through. Then yarn over and just go through that loop, tighten off, put your yarn in there. Now make sure that this is the right way around. Okay, with the stitches that we're using, it is a little bit harder to see which is the right way and the wrong way because they look very similar, but just see where you've sewn the seam, and this is the front side. So I sewed the other side, so I know that this is the front. Also, what I will do is on the inside, I put a stitch marker at the collar. This is where I put my label, Lucky Platypus label. And so I've just put it where I'm going to put the label, so I know that this is the inside of my jacket. So I'm on the right side on my jacket, and I'm going to start creating 28 stitches. Now how I create my stitches, so I've already put the starting in that hole there. I'm going to miss this next hole and put in the next hole there, my next stitch, which is simply half double crochet. So yarn over, straight into that hole, grab my yarn, pull it through, grab my yarn, pull through all the loops on the hook. And then you can also tighten off your starting. I miss that hole and I go into the next one. I miss that hole and I go into the next one. I miss that hole, I go into the next one. And you're going to do that all the way around to have 28 stitches. Okay, so I've come to the end where I started. There's where I started. This is where I finished. And I've counted up. I have my 28 stitches. And now what I need to do is join together. If you don't have 28 stitches, as in there's too few or too many, this is where you need to adjust that tail that I said to leave when you were sewing up. So if you have too few, undo that tail. Take the tail out, and then you will have to undo your stitches, your first row, and restart again. If you have not If you have too much space here, you can either leave it like that and sew it up, or you can undo the stitches over this side quite easily and then join it up. But do the adjustment via that tail that you left. But I've got it perfect at 28 stitches. So now what I need to do is connect the row together. So on that first stitch there, all I'm going to do is go into the top of that stitch and just do a slip stitch. Okay, so to show you again, go into the top of that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then pull through the loop on the hook. Chain 1, turn your work. Now before you go any further, I suggest put a stitch marker in on that first row. And this will help you, might help if I undo the stitch marker, this will help you find and count your rows. Okay, so we turned our work and now we're working back the other way. Now the reason why you don't go around and around and around and around, and we are going backwards and forwards, if you go around and around and around, you are going to change the pattern. So don't do that, go backwards and forwards, just like I'm showing you here. So we're missing the first stitch here, and we're going into the second stitch, all half double crochet, and you should count every stitch on every row. Trust me, when you're doing sleeves, for some reason it's really easy to get yourself lost and lose stitches or gain stitches, and you're counting to make sure you have 28 stitches. So this is round number 2. Alright, so I've come to the last stitch. Now the last stitch is always in where you did your first stitch. So you can see the first stitch is connected there, and that's where I'm going to put my last stitch of this round. And then we slip stitch together. So there's the top of that first stitch. So I'm going to put my hook in there, grab my yarn, pull it through and pull through the loop on the hook. Chain 1. Turn my work. It's getting big and bulky now. All right, remembering we're missing that first stitch, and then we are half double crocheting all the way around. So this is row number 3. Last 2 stitches of row number 3, remembering that the last stitch goes into the same as the first stitch. And then slip stitching the round together. Chain 1, turn your work, and we are on round number 4. So do this round number 4 and round number 5, and I will meet you back here after round number 5. Okay, so I'm at the end of row number 5. Slip stitch together. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on this round number 6 is a decrease round. So chain 1, turn your work. So remembering to miss that first stitch there, yarn over, go into the next stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, go into the third stitch along, grab a yarn, pull it through, and then grab a yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook, and that joins those 2 stitches together. So showing you that again. So we're missing that stitch like we always have. Yarn over, going into the next stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, going into the next stitch along, grab a yarn, pull it through, and then grab a yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook. So that's your decrease, and then continue on. So by the end of this row, you should have 27 stitches. So I'm coming to the end of that row. Just join my stitches, my row together. Chain 1, turn my work. Now, on my decrease row, I'm going to place a stitch marker. And that tells me that this is a lot of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with row 6 being my decrease round. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another 5 rows without a decrease, and on my 6th row I'm going to decrease. So it will be the same as this, but with 27 stitches for each row. And then I'm going to repeat that for a 3rd time. So I'm doing 3 groups of 6 with my 6th row having the decrease. So I'm going to leave you to do those 3 sections. So I've already done number 1. So you have 27 stitches. Number 2 with your 5 rows, and your 6th row with a decrease will end you with 26 stitches. And then your 3rd lot, 5 rows and no decrease, and then your 6th row will be decreased to 25 stitches, and I will meet you back there when you've got there. Okay, so we have finished part of our sleeve where we are decreasing. So you can see where the stitch markers are. 1, 2, 3 is where I did my decreases. I have 25 stitches left and should have a total of 18 rows. We are now going to be doing the decorative cuff, and we're going to be doing that in griddle stitch, exactly the same as what we will be doing the hem and what we did around the edge of the collar and the front panels with. So I have already joined my row together. I have chained 1 and turn your work, so your work should be facing towards you. We are going to miss that first stitch, going into the next stitch, and we're doing our single crochet. Next stitch, our double. Next stitch, our single. Next stitch, our double, and so on and so forth. And I will meet you at the end of this row. Last 2 stitches, so I've got my double crochet, and then my last stitch will start in this exactly the same as the first stitch, will be a single crochet. Then join your row together as normal with your slip stitch, chain 1, turn your work. And as you remember, your first stitch is always going to go on top exactly the same as the last stitch. So I ended with a single crochet. I'm going to start with a single crochet, and then my double, and then my single, and then my double, and we keep going around the same, joining the row together with your slip stitch as always, remembering you're always missing that first stitch, and you will always start and end with your single crochet. Now we need to do this decorative cuff rows, 9 of the rows. So we're on row number 2, and we need to do another 7 rows after this. I'm going to leave you to finish your cuff doing your griddle stitch for 9 rows, and then we should be moving on to the last step, which is the buttons. I'm at the end of my last row of my cuff, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So just need to slip stitch together, snip off the end, pull it through, sew in the end, and then that's your sleeve done. You need to repeat this for your second sleeve, and then we're up to doing the buttons. Now that we've finished the sleeves, the second last thing we have to do is to do the hem. So go back to the bottom of your jacket and take out that stitch marker that you had in there, and chain 1, and you're going to be doing griddle stitch again. So as you remember, you start off with your single crochet and then your double crochet. Now when I go over the griddly bit, I just stick the hook in wherever. It generally falls where it needs to. And then when you come to the bottom, you'll see you're back to stitches. Okay, so I've now finished on the double, and now we're going to the single and the double, single, double, and so on and so forth until you get to the join where you sewed up the edge. And see how it might look a bit all over the place, so just work it out what looks neat and tidy. And put a single in here, and then go to my doubles. There you go. So keep doing that all the way around the bottom, and I'll meet you when you get to the end of this row. I'm up to last couple of stitches, and this time I'm going to end up finishing off on a double crochet, and that's absolutely fine. So the next row I'm going to chain one, turn my work, and as you know, you put the same stitch that you finished off with on top of the next stitch row. So double crochet, and I'm going to start off with a double crochet. Always chain one. Do not chain two if you are on a double crochet row. Do the chain one. And then I'm doing a single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, and continuing on. And I'm going to do as many rows as it takes to finish up all the remaining yarn that I have left. So hopefully that will give me 10 rows or more. If it gives you less, oh well, lucked out on the amount of yarn that's actually in the balls. But generally I get 10 rows or more, so hopefully that is what you get. All right, keep going. Do as many rows as you can for all the yarn you've got left, and I'll meet you back here and we'll do the buttons. Before you put your buttons on, make sure that the last thing you do is make sure you've used up all of the remaining yarn to finish off your hem. So I've just done that, and I'm at the last stitch there. And so what I'm now going to do is snip off my last bit and pull that through, and then I'll just sew in all my tails. Okay, so this is the jacket finished so far. Now it doesn't fit me, so please don't judge. But we need to place where the buttons are going to go. The buttons for a girl always go on the left, and the buttons for the boys go on the right. Now there's no reason why a man couldn't wear this if you put it in the colours that they like. So what you need to do, you'll see that there is a stitch marker here. I put this on, stand in front of a mirror, and then I just pull it together and see where it seems comfortable. And then that's where I'll put my first button. My next button is going to go to the very bottom here. So if I show you my placement, there's my button. So I'm going to put it right down the bottom, as close to the bottom. Leave just a tiny bit. Hope you can see there. So leave just a tiny bit. So you'll have your button up here, button down here, and then measure between the 2 points to get your third button. And then for your fourth and your fifth button, just place it between the first and the second to get your true second here, because this will become the third. And then from the third to the last, you'll place a button about here. And then once you know where they're going to go, I always sew the top one on first, sew the bottom on next, sew the middle one on next, then either for the next two. And it's as easy as that. You don't have to make buttonholes, because these buttons will fit straight through the other side, no problem whatsoever. And that's why we use this size button, because it'll fit through the gauge on this jumper or jacket. All right, so I'm going to do that, and then that will bring us to the end of this tutorial. Okay, so we are all finished. And what I love most about this jacket is just how quick it is to work up, and it's fantastic for those beautiful winter days. So I hope you have enjoyed working this jacket. If you do have any comments, please leave them below. Like, subscribe and all that good stuff. I've got lots and lots of other different tutorials, so go and check them out. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it, and I will see you again in another tutorial very soon. Bye everyone.